All right, boys and girls, welcome back to the drive-through. Special third bell filming. Shout out to Akmal on his new calculator today. He's officially a member of the class now. It's taken him a couple weeks, but now you are officially in. Okay, welcome. Everybody say welcome. All right. So, before we get started on this, which is half calculator-based, half not, I want to remind you that mathematicians are simply lazy people that are considered smart, okay? So, will you pass that back to Will? Thanks. So if anyone ever calls you lazy, you should say thanks, okay? They're just calling you smart. Because here is where things came from. Remember the caveman story that I always tell you? That some smart caveman was sick of adding 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5. So then they just turned this into a new word, which was what? Multiply, right. That's 5 times 6. It's 6 sets of 5. And they both equal the same thing, right? Do you agree? So then what is x plus x plus x plus x plus x plus x? It's just 6x. That's where that comes from. It's just a rule of multiplying. And what is 2x plus 2x plus 2x plus 2x? Oh, I wanted 6 of them. What's that? That's just 12x. That is 6 times 2x. That's it, okay? Now, it does get more complicated than that. I'll change colors. What is 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5? Okay, well, we're definitely going to need our calculator for that. Just notation-wise, what do we call that? Somebody said it? That's right. 5 to the 6th power. Can somebody give me that, Jace? Okay, well that brings me to my first thing that I want to teach you today, and that is the 6th root of 15,625. Maybe you already know the answer to this question. What is the answer to this question? It's 5, but I'd like to practice typing this into my calculator, okay? So, there are 2 ways to do it. I want you to know that another way to write the 6th root of something is to write it to the 1/6 power. So, if you can hit the lights for me, Elena. So you could write this as 15,625 to the, then you need to use a parentheses because we want to put a fraction there. 1/6, so 1 divided by 6, and then close your parentheses, and that will indeed give you 5. Okay, so practice that real quick. Okay, but now I'm going to teach you a better way to type that into your calculator. Okay? So I want you to start with this number, like it's the 6th root. So start by typing in a 6. And then hit this button right here that says Math. And which one do you think we want? We want number 5. We want to turn that X into a 6. So hit, and that's what we're looking for. You see how that works? And now you'll just type in 15,625, and it'll give you the same answer. So those 2 things are the same thing, or they're synonymous or congruent. Okay, so far so good? All right, let's just do a couple calculator practice problems, 4 of them. So we are going to do 3, math, 5. That gets me to the cube root. 343. We're asking ourselves, what number, when you multiply it by itself 3 times, gives you 343, and the answer is 7. Okay? Alright, now look. There's two ways to do example B. There's the smart way, which means you just use your brain. What do you think the fourth root of 1 is? It's 1. Because 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. Okay? This would be the easiest way I think you could do it. All you got to do is figure out what the fourth root of 625 is. So you hit 4, math, 5, 625, and you get 1/5. Okay? Can I show you another way to do that, though? Hit 4, math, 5, and get your fourth root up. Now do a parentheses. 1 divided by 625, and close it. Okay? Hit enter. Now it's not going to give you the same thing as a fifth. Hopefully you know that 2/10 is a fifth, but it's okay if you don't. You weren't really raised that way. You just go back to math and say, hey, I want to turn this thing into a fraction. That's what this says. Turn it into a fraction. So hit 1, and now you get your 1/5, which is what we got. Okay? All good answers. I would encourage you to write your answer in the same way that it's started. So this, you should write your answer as a fraction. This one, you should write your answer as a decimal. Okay? Oh, hold on, I've already screwed something up. Anytime we have an even root, this needs to be plus or minus. Does everybody understand why? Well, if we did 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, we would get 16, right? So 2 to the 4th equals 16. However, if we did negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, we would also get 16. So that means that the fourth root of 16 is either 2 or negative 2. Does that make sense? But when we have odd ones, we don't need plus or minuses. And we'll show you that right here. So let's go ahead. You could just type this in exactly how it is. So 3, math, 5, negative 0.064. Oops. It'll give you the right answer. It's only negative 4. Sorry, negative 0.4. Okay? Because a negative times a negative gives you a positive, but then you multiply that by a negative again, and it gives you a negative. So that one has to be negative. Okay? And just remember that there is a 2 here. And so it's even. The square root of negative 25 is no real solution. Why did I put a 2 in there? Because that's what it means. Square root is like, it's like an assumed 2. Okay? And I'm just trying to remind you that it's even. So you, if the directions say state the real solutions, you would write no reals. If the directions say solve or simplify, then you would write plus or minus 5i. And honestly, if you wrote plus or minus 5i and it said state the real solutions, I'd still be happy that you recognized that this is 5i. Okay? All right. So, got a little good news, bad news today. The good news is this stuff's pretty easy. You can do it in your calculator. The bad news is there's a back. So flip it over now. And what do you see? You see letters. It's okay. We can do this. Let's see. We already talked about our examples. Let's just go right into it. Okay? So the square root of 36x squared. Well, I would like for you to think of that as the square root of 6x times 6x. Does that make sense to you? And you don't have to write these out every time. I just want you to understand what the heck you're doing. Well, that's the same thing as the square root of 6x squared. Okay? And what does this square root sign and this square sign do to each other? They just cancel each other out. So the answer is plus or minus 6x. Why is it plus or minus? Again, because this is even. You'll see that in the examples they want you to use absolute value. I don't think so. I like plus or minus. Okay, now they get a little harder. Just bear with me. Eventually you guys are going to find the pattern to this. But it's not just about finding the pattern. It's as equally important that you understand what the heck you're doing. So, is there a number that you can think of that when you multiply it by itself, I shouldn't say a number, I'll call it a thing. What thing, when you multiply it by itself, gives you x to the 20th? Were you thinking of x to the 10th times x to the 10th? Maybe. Okay? So with that being said, what do we have on the bottom, do you think? What thing, when you multiply it by itself, gives you y to the 8th? Y to the 4th times y to the 4th. Now bear with me here. On the top, what you get is ends up being an x to the 10th, whoops, an x to the 10th squared, because that's what it means to multiply by yourself. And what do we get on the bottom? Y to the 4th squared. And again, what does the square and the square root do to each other? They cancel each other out, so you end up getting x to the 10th over y to the 4th, because this squared cancels with that sign and this squared cancels with that sign. And if you want to include the plus or minus on both, you can, but I'm telling you that's the least of my concerns. The least of my concerns. I probably won't even put that on my key on the quiz. Okay? Alright. Now we've got cube roots. So let's see. How do I want to explain this to you? Anyone? Go ahead. Just put your calculator. What is the cube root of 27? It's not 9. It's 3. Okay? Alright, now, on the bottom, we need to take that 6 and make it into a cubed. Yeah, you're behind because you just sent that text. Legit. I know, it's just a minute is all you need to get you behind, which is why I encourage you to put it away, do your little 20 minutes, and then you can have it out and do whatever you need. Z plus 12 squared cubed. That's hard to imagine. Because what does it mean to have z plus 12 to the 6th power? It means z plus 12 times 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 z plus 12. 6 times. Well, another way you could do that is do z plus 12 times itself 3 times. And this is tricky. This is tricky, okay? Believe me, I do not think this is easy. Now we got it to this point, and then I'm going to take your question, okay, Jace? Now I can start doing my canceling, because these are both cube roots. So the cube root of something cubed, you just get 3z on the top, And what do you think you get on the bottom? Well, this cube root, sorry, is that what you're going to ask? Cancels with this, and you end up getting z plus 12 squared on the bottom. Jace first, sorry. Did I answer it? I changed this to a cube root on the bottom. I didn't have that written down. I had screwed that up. Yeah, it did matter. I screwed it up. Katie? Correct. We changed it from a 6 to a 2 and a 3 so that it could cancel with that 3. Exactly. That was my strategy. Paula? Would I FOIL the bottom? I personally would not FOIL the bottom because I think this looks pretty simple. And if you FOIL the bottom, you're going to get 3z over z squared plus 24z plus 144. And I think this one is easier to understand than that one. So I don't want you to FOIL the bottom. Okay? But it's a great question. And if you did, and you did it correctly, it would not be wrong. Okay? You just got it now? Or you said, oh my goodness. What'd you say? Ah! Uh-oh. We're almost done with this video. If I can scroll up. How do you scroll up? Here it is. Okay, ready? So, we've got the 4th root of... Alright, so how could I rewrite this y minus 4 to the 8th so that it canceled? Katie? Excellent. Like that? Is that what you kind of meant? Y minus 4 squared to the 4th. Now we got some things that are going to cancel. On the bottom, we just write it just like it is. Now we've got things that will cancel. This 4 cancels with that. We're left with y minus 4 squared on the top. And on the bottom, this 4 cancels with the 4th root, and you're left with simply z plus 9. And that's how you do it. They should be plus or minus. I just stopped doing that because I didn't want to further confuse you guys. Okay? Keeping in mind that really it should be this. That's not even the right notation. It's the whole thing is plus or minus. And that just gets more complicated than we need to make it. Do not worry too much about the plus or minus. The rest of the stuff will be plenty difficult for you. So what we have here is a front side of this worksheet that's pretty easy. I would do the front in your calculator, check your answers online. Okay, they're already up. And then you got a back that's not easy at all. So what I would do on the back is do one, check your answer. Do the next one, check your answer. You don't want to do this whole thing and then figure out that you did the whole back thing wrong. And I'm obviously going to be here to answer your questions. Boom.